What's going on, guys? JPB Duel here. Hope you guys are enjoying your weekend. And for today's matchup, we have an Adventures Pranks versus an Adventures Rose Tenyi with me as the prankster going first. Now keep in mind, this is not on my main account, it's on my Smurf account. I was doing a Rookie 2 to Diamond 1 challenge within 6 days with prank kids only. And what do you know? Prank kids plays does get Ash Blossom. Usually, in Diamond games, your opponent will not Ash Blossom your prank kids play search. They would save it for the first graveyard activation, that way it's a guaranteed negation on your own combo. But my opponent does the Ash Blossom on my Pranker's Play search anyway, so I have to cross out designate the Ash Blossom. And right here my opponent will make a major misplay. So first of all, never ever do this. Never ever chain link your Maxi to your opponent, cross out designating your Ash Blossom. Why? It's because if your opponent had an Ash Blossom in their hand, they could just chain their Ash Blossom in this chain link itself to negate your Maxi. What you want to do is that let the crossout designate negate the Ash Blossom, and then once the chain resolves, you Maxi. That way, even if your opponent does have an Ash Blossom in their hand, they will not be able to activate it, and even if they activate it, it's negated anyways for that turn, so your Maxi goes through. So keep that in mind. Never ever do it this way. Just a few tips and tricks that you might want to pick up if you want to actually climb to Diamond 1 without making too many misplays along the way. So I get my Prank's Play search. Sadly, I am under Maxi, so I cannot do my full combo. So what I end up doing is that I put my token on the field, get my Fateful Adventure, and search for my Griffin Rider. That way, since I will have a token on the field, I'll be able to put the Griffin Rider on my field on my opponent's turn, so he won't be drawing a card through it, and I'll be able to at least put an Omni on the field, and hopefully that would disrupt my opponent's full combo. Opponent's turn, he draws a card. He drew into an Adventures Engine or already had it in his hand. Doesn't matter to us. He activates it, to which I chain link my Griffin and put it on the field. And right here, once he goes into his token into the Fateful Adventure, I have to negate the Fateful Adventure, otherwise my opponent will get his Omni on the field, plus a Draco back bounce, which would have been really bad for me. So I Griffin negate this, hoping that it would disrupt my opponent's combo. Sadly, that was all just a bait my opponent threw out. So now my opponent goes into his actual combo, and you guys will see he's about to pop off. Even though he makes major misplays, because again, this is a Platinum 3, it's not a high tier game of Diamond. I mean, people still make misplays in Diamond, mind you, but they make misplays less often than people in Plat make misplays. So he goes off, does the full Crystron Hulk Auroradon combo. I cannot interact with this guy's combo whatsoever. He goes his Omni, which is the Borreload Savage, goes into his Denlong, which will be another Omni on the field in the form of 9 Pillars of Yanzing if he puts a Yanzing monster on the field. So you guys will see here right now, he is not going to be putting a Yanzing monster on the field. So I will basically only be dealing with one Omni negate. He goes into Grandmaster plus the Draco Berserker. Grandmaster searches him for the Longyan. He's going to activate it, and instead of going into a Baron de Fleur, this guy proceeds to go into the Sword Soul Sovereign. I did not know what was going on through this guy's head, but Sword Soul Sovereign is an extremely hard card for prank kids to remove off of the field, because anytime you try to destroy it through card effects, they could banish one card, which will trigger the Sovereign, and banish one card on your side and in your graveyard, which is really annoying to deal with. You could only get over it through battle or through a bounce effect, or maybe a Kaiju. So I drew into Fusion Destiny. First of all, this field is menacing in and of itself. I first have to bait out my opponent's Omni, because I know as long as I bait out the Omni, I can Raigeki the field, get rid of 3 monsters aside from this, because it will activate the effect of Banish to negate the card destruction. So I'm okay with that. I force out the negate from my opponent, and Borreload Savage, keep in mind, is just a card negation. It's not a card destruction, unlike Baron de Fleur, which is a card negation plus destruction. Then I go into my main play, which is Raigeki, pop his whole field aside from everything from Sovereign, then use Fusion Destiny, put my DPE on the field. So at this point, I know the Sword Soul Sovereign is not going to die, and I just pop the DPE for anyways, because the banish effect of the Sovereign is a once per turn thing, and he already used it before when he negated the destruction through Raigeki. Goes into battle phase, kills off my DPE. So at this point, my only concern was that I hope my opponent does not draw into any combo starter cards or any monster cards, because any monster card or combo starter card for my opponent would basically mean game over for me. So I was hoping to maybe outlast him by just putting stuff on the field for his Sovereign to bump into, and maybe I'll draw into my combo starter card and do some stuff afterwards. I activate DPE in the graveyard, which was destroyed. My opponent Call by the Graves it, so that triggers the Sovereign. The DPE is already banished. The two cards he chose to banish were my Dasher plus my Faithful Adventure. So with DPE's activation, I already had it. I put the Celestial on the field. Again, right here, I had to hope my opponent to not draw into any combo starter cards or basically any monsters whatsoever, because I know in his graveyard he has no way to put anything on the field currently. So as long as he does not draw into any monster, we are good. So again, he did not draw into anything. Kills off my Celestial, I'm good with that. Finally, on turn 7, I draw into my combo starter card. I'm thinking, I could maybe make a play work and maybe kill my opponent. Why? Because I had Thunder Dragon Fusion in my hand. As long as I get my Prankets combo going, even if my opponent nibs me afterwards, I would still be able to use Thunder Dragon Fusion and put Butler on the field. And if my opponent nibs me, that means his Sovereign is gone as well, and that's the biggest threat I was worried about. So right here, I'm going through my combos, and I know for a fact I have to go into Unicorn to bounce the Sovereign. I cannot let my opponent keep the Sovereign on the field. That is a big threat towards me. So I go into Unicorn, discard the Pranks, bounce it, use Thunder Dragon Fusion, go into my Butler. I do not care about the Pranks recycle. I'm just going in for damage and hoping for my opponent to not draw into any cards. Even if he draws into it, now I have 2 Butler pops and I could easily pop my opponent's field. He activates the Ashuna, and I have to instantly pop this. I cannot allow this Ashuna to stay on the field, because if he goes into the Monk of Tenyi will trigger the Vishuddha in the graveyard, which will activate to bounce a card on the field. I do not want that happening. Always, if you're playing against Rose Tenyi or in general, always keep an eye on your opponent's graveyard. See if they have any effects they could activate from the graveyard. Keep those in your head when you are making your plays. So I proceed to kill his Ashuna. He ends his turn, and respect to my opponent for staying in the game. Usually people outright surrender when this happens, when they have no more plays and they know they're dead next turn. So respect to my man Kima. Thank you very much for staying in the game, my man. And I go in for the lethal on my next turn. And that's going to be the end of the game, guys. If you guys do like this kind of videos, please consider hitting the like button, subscribing to my channel for more daily prank video uploads, and if you guys are interested in the live version of all this, I do live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/jpbduel. Link along with my schedule is going to be in the video description itself for you guys to check out. This is JPB Duel signing off for today. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace!